into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Understanding what you may hear about me, I have incredibly good judgment. 1, I married Jill. And 2, I appointed Johnson to the academy. I just want you to know that. Just clap for that, you stupid bastard.
I'm recording now. I'll go back and edit and put it in here. I can't play it like on the mix, but in case anyone didn't see this, I'm going to be dropping in the audio of the coolest thing Biden has ever said, which is the other day. I don't even know what the context of this was. It just kind of went viral on Twitter. He was at some thing where he's just doing Biden stuff, and he's like, he just trails off like he usually does, and he's talking about his wife, and he's like, and that's why, Dr. Jill, and then he just busts out with this sentence, clap for that, you stupid bastards. It's pretty cool, right? I know we like to make fun of Joe Biden, and I know he's going to get us all killed and everything, but for a second, I was kind of like, yeah, this is how you should be running against Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Incoherently.
It's a command, because before we had Jeb Bush, who was asking, he was like, please clap.
Yeah.
It cucked him out of the nomination. People thought that was too weak. And so Biden is commanding people to clap. It's very, he's commandeering.
The tweet that went viral was the Virgin please clap versus the Chad clap your hands, you stupid bastards.
Right.
Tend to agree. Anyway, that's how we'll open the show today. Hello, I am Jake Flores. This is Pod Damn America. Anders Lee, what's up?
Anders Lee here.
And joining us are special guests from the Violet Wanderers podcast, Ian and Alexis. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. Glad to have you on. Basically, I heard your story. I thought it'd be a perfect fit for our show. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and the job you are applying for currently, Ian?
You go with the podcast. I'll go with the job.
So that gives you a chance to shut the door.
Yes.
So our podcast is a all trans hosted pop culture and comedy podcast. We also occasionally do interviews where I just kind of randomly ask people who are way above my weight class on Twitter to come on the show, and sometimes they do. Like, we've had one of the founders of Occupy Wall Street came on way early in the show.
Wow.
But most of the time, it's just really perverted, stupid bullshit and pop culture commentary. We play stupid games. We have one called Incel-mageddon that I torture my co-hosts
God.
with.
It's the game that crushes your soul.
And yeah, we play games. We talk about movies and music and things going on in the world.
Way too much about our sex life.
And way too much about our sex life.
What's Incel-mageddon? Can we get a little sneak preview?
So
Gonna kill them too now.
I probably
Maybe I've already played this game. This sounds like something that I have done unintentionally.
Basically, I go on to either incel forums, or a lot of times I'll filter it through like one of the Twitter sites, or like We Hunted the Mammoth, one of the people that tracks them. I find the most horrific things that incels have said, and then I make just a guessing game of which of these 4 options is the one that I made up, and which of the other 3 are all real. And so it's
don't tell me about
incel
forums. Okay,
just a little bit of that, and yeah, it's because those quotes are so just mind-blowingly bad. My co-hosts generally wind up depressed. I almost never play that game when we have a new guest on, because they will never come back if I do. Learned that through hard experience. But yeah, we just, like I said, it's pop culture, it's comedy. We tell jokes. We have dumb sketches. I think I sent one to you, Jake, about the gender reveal party stuff.
Oh yeah, you predicted the future. Yeah.
Yeah. We did a little sketch on that. We do sketches about idiotic right-wing militias and I think there's a sketch that's called like Ben Shapiro's Snacks Don't Care About Your Feelings, stupid shit like that.
Fun. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just dumb fun.
I like the gamification of the internet. I hadn't thought of that. One just occurred to me. What if we did, like, instead of name that tune, it's name that take, and then you're reading tweets, and it's like, I can name that take in 3 slurs or something. You know? Oh, that's a Annika Chin quote or something. I don't know. Well, anyway. Good.
I do have one upcoming game that's got a bunch of like I think there's Amber Ailey Frost and like Nick Fuentes quotes and shit in it. So sorry. Anyway.
All right, man. Now our son is crashing in here. Felix, this is not our podcast. You need to go.
That's all right. It happens all the time on our show. It's just with cats.
Yeah. Well, our cats aren't allowed in the bedroom. Otherwise, they would be in here too. But coroner, that is what I'm.
Yes,
that is what I'm running for. We live in a very small town in East Central Indiana, and coroner is apparently an elected position here. It's not everywhere, I don't think, and our coroner, you don't have to be a doctor. Basically, the coroner, I am in the medical field, but I'm not a doctor yet. I do plan on going back to school and becoming one. Basically, our Dem party chairman, is that what he is, chairman?
The county party chairman.
Yeah, the county party chairman was like, we have some ballot, spots to fill. And one of them was, coroner. And I was like, wait. How do I be the coroner? And so he's like, you go fill out the paperwork. And I filed it on the last day to file. So the guy that I'm running against had already been through the primary against like this Tea Party guy. And he won against the crazy Tea Party guy. But he has been actually doing the job of assistant coroner or deputy coroner for 12 years. So it's a bit of an uphill battle. But so you don't have to be a doctor here. The coroner here basically picks up the dead bodies and transports them to Muncie's Ball State Hospital, where the pathologist, does the autopsies and stuff. So it's mostly paperwork and transport.
You're signing the death certificates.
And signing the death certificates, yeah. And yeah.
Right.
So you are the Democratic nominee then for...
I am.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, yeah, 2 things, I guess, about this interest me. One, obviously, the reason for a trans person having an interest in becoming coroner is got to be that the coroner, like, literally dead names people, right?
Yes.
There's
that's
all these instances of this over the years.
Yes.
And then the ability to become coroner, this is like one of those AOC backdoor type things, I guess, to me. It seems like, because I did a little reading into like what exactly a coroner is today, because it didn't occur to me that the coroner is elected. I just never really thought about it. So I looked into the history of what a coroner is and where that job comes from. And it's really interesting because the rules are different everywhere. In a lot of places, you don't have to have any medical experience at all. And part of that is, I'm going to go through a Wikipedia page here. I'll go take us through a little bit of history. Coroner, as a name, comes from the phrase custos placatorum coronae, which means keeper of the pleas of the crown. And it's a job that was invented.
Sounds like a Gregorian chant.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like a fucking weird, well, no, not a Harry Potter thing. No.
I mean...
no, if you play it on a tape backwards 3 times, it sends the demon back to hell. That's what it does.
Yeah, and it sends them there with the wrong pronouns on their demon. 1194. This goes back to medieval times, and it's a job that essentially was like a counterpart to the sheriff. Coroner literally comes from coronate, the crown, the root word of coronavirus. Also, incidentally, I'm doing a lot of etymology on the show these days. And essentially, the job was a record keeper's job. So it wasn't always particularly to do with death, but it became centered around death, around times where suicides could result in chattel, goods, money, things like that, that the crown realized, we got to have somebody who can, like, if these things aren't correctly spoken for, just convert back into the monarchy. Like, we can come take your stuff if you die and you're not like an elected official or something. And I looked this up. I looked up the actual. Let me find the page here. It's the Coroner Society of England and Wales, which is where this all comes from. They have their history written right on their website. And one of the original functions of the coroner was to discover any buried treasure in the community which the person might have owned. Which is
sweet.
Kind of fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just got a whole new plank for your platform.
Right?
Yeah, I guess that was a big problem in like the fucking 1200s or whatever.
Pirates.
Later, coroners go on to move into Wales as they invade. There's a Norman conquest, and there's this continuing habit of killing Normans. A heavy fine was levied on any village where a dead body was discovered on the assumption that it was presumed to be Norman unless it could be proved English. So this kind of lawyer position gets involved into proving a dead person is English so that you can't convict them of a crime known as murdrum, which is where murder comes from. And blah, 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 blah. History goes from there.
Did they prove him to be English? Did they break out the forceps or something?
They just look at the teeth, I think.
So I'm kind of curious about the ideology behind coroner dead naming. If that's like something that's especially reserved for trans people, or if that's just like kind of an ideology. If you're a coroner, it's like your name is your name, and it says this, it's a piece of paper from 30 years ago that we need to abide by, and it's going to rule the rest of your life. Is it that, or are they more flexible with cisgendered people who want a different name, or like what's the reason behind that?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it probably depends on where you're located. Mm-hmm. Like I know, in places like New York and stuff, trans people frequently have their, chosen name on there. But I do know that there are times where a trans person has legally changed their name. Like my name was legally changed yesterday in the court. So
another congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. My ballot and stuff still has my old name, but it does have Ian in parentheses on it. I was able to get that passed through.
And we had to go to court because
I don't know, why'd we have to go to court?
Because otherwise we were going to have to print your old name, new name, and address in the newspaper.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hey, transphobes, I'm changing my gender. Come get me.
Well, no, changing my gender is a different thing, but
yeah. Anyway, sorry.
But anyway, so I do know that sometimes even people who have legally changed their name, families, there's nothing to stop a family. Like my spouse could say, well, Ian legally changed his name. And, it's legal, it's in the paper, or it's in, the court documents and everything. It's all filed. But my mom could come in and be like, well, if I were to die tomorrow, I'd be like, their name is, this, that's what I named them 45 years ago. And even though, my spouse and I have been married for 14 years, we've been together for 20 years almost, my parents could declare that they wanted, it published as my, dead name, a name that I personally haven't even used in several years and is now legally, not my name anymore. So that does exist in all sorts of areas, not just, rural areas. But I do know that, a lot of times in rural areas, you have, bigots and, backwater, thoughts and small-mindedness. And we, live in a very rural area. There's not a lot of trans people here. There are a few. I'm not the only one, but it can be kind of an uphill court battle. So most of the stuff that we have to deal with is like addiction here. And right. A lot of, I'm running on a platform of compassion because, a lot of times the coroner job, as you said, it's a lot of paperwork and people just kind of get pushed through and, oh, they're an addict. We don't need to, we know what they died from. Big deal. Slow news day, move on, next. And that's just kind of how, people are treated in death. And I want them to be seen as, a flawed human, a human, that had interests, a human that had favorite TV shows and just had an illness, so.
Right.
But
Well, a little bit more history related to this. So the job morphed into births and death record keeping after the 1836 act of that name, births and death registration. And that happened during the cholera plague because, like we're experiencing right now, a lot of people are dying all over the place.
Right.
And so there's this like need for like some sort of a record keeper. But there's sort of, I guess, like a historically, like the coroner a lot of times doesn't keep records of every death. It's only situations in which they're
suspicious or
right. Because all the murder and stuff like that. They also said that a lot of the coroner's job became more relevant during a time when they just suspected poison was a thing that people were getting killed by, and then it looked like a natural death. So now you have an inspection or whatever, and then slowly, I guess it sort of works its way into we have like all these police involved, fucking cops killing people. They call them police involved shootings and stuff like that. But it was just also a lot of like suicides and things like that. And I guess I was reading about the specific issues related to trans people being dead named, and it seemed that the issue kind of centered around conflicts between the person's partner, if they had one, and then the family, who maybe was, not empathetic to
yes.
their identity. And then the third factor that would kind of put a wedge between those two people was the state governments all having different interpretations of the defensive, or not the defense, the other one. So can you, I guess, speak to how that plays out in I guess in specifically where you're from in Indiana? How's it set up there?
Well, here I'm not sure about like in Indianapolis itself, but like in our county, and I'm imagining it's probably the same statewide. Like I know other states, you do have to be like a medical examiner or be an MD or a DO in order to be the coroner. Here you don't. It's more record keeping. I'm not exactly sure on the amount of dead trans people that have been dead named here in this state. It does pop up on occasion, like in articles and stuff where that has happened, and it is an issue. It is a problem. It happens more frequently than you think. And now our son is coming in. I'll get him. Okay, Felix.
Look, I made an upgrade.
Go away.
Oh, what did Felix make?
What's the upgrade? I don't know. He's been playing with magnets and putty all day and like trying to light things on fire. So
cool.
Whoa.
He's 9.
Imagine
He's really into
magnetic
experiments.
So
he made putty out of Baby Bell cheese wax.
That sounds like it might not smell great, but interesting nonetheless.
Especially lit on fire.
But so do you basically see the solution to this problem as sort of on an institutional level as getting more coroners in place just throughout the country who take their discretion seriously about names and actually take it on themselves to as you say, use compassion. I like that term, even for the deceased, and it really investigate and get to the bottom of what these people as individuals would want to be remembered as.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
And we need more people running for office, different offices in general, but we especially need more LGBTQ plus people in office. Like right now, if I win, I'd be the first transgender candidate or first transgender coroner. I'm sorry, in the country, perhaps the world. I weren't
able to find anyone.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the world when I looked it up, but I'd be the first one in the U.S. So, cool. And it's just me in this tiny town of 5,000 people. So it's kind of starting to draw like national attention, which is a little weird for me, but. Yeah, it is a little odd because, like I said, we're in a town of like 5,000 people. We have like 4 stoplights here. So,
but it's doable because it's, such a small number of doors you need to knock ultimately, right?
Yeah. And it is, we're a very red county in a very red state. The vice president was our governor. His brother is, currently running for senator or representative.
No, he is our current representative, and he's going for re-election.
That's
just
right.
like I think this is his third or fourth term.
Yeah, and I mean it's disheartening because the Pence brothers own this like antique mall like south of Indy, and they peddle all sorts of like racist memorabilia in there, like like the mammies and stuff, and
Mammies and lawn jockeys.
and lawn jockeys and stuff, and they own the building, and they're like, yeah, no, we're not going to remove that. It's quote unquote history. So
Wow.
They've been called out for stuff like that before, but and you have all these people that are supporting that. But at the same time, here in my town, I've gotten a lot of support from especially younger people. I'm 45, so, and even some of the older people that I would have thought would be kind of like, they've been like, yeah, it's time for change, because the coroner position in our town has had. I had a funeral director reach out to me and say, you know what, he's basically conservative, but he's like, I'm voting for you because we need some change. The coroner position has never been challenged. There's never been a Democratic challenger. The last 30 years, it's been strangleholded by the EMS. So like the last coroner was a fireman, and the one that I'm running against, like I said, he's currently the deputy coroner, but he's an EMT. So it's basically the EMS services of our county have had kind of a stranglehold on it. But it's encouraging to see that, so many people, even people that I would not have thought would vote for, the Democratic, gay trans candidate is like, I'm voting for you because we need some change. We need, this guy brushed me off and was real brusque at, my kids viewing and stuff like that. So
yeah, you've heard several stories about the current deputy one being just real crappy to people.
Yeah, I have, and I don't know the guy personally. I mean, I've heard that he's actually a Democrat and he just switched to vote on the Republican ticket just so he could automatically basically kind of win his primary. And if he is, great, cool.
Run unopposed.
Yeah, run unopposed. And he could be a great guy. I don't know. I've never met him, but
yeah.
Well, is your opponent?
These small races are totally winnable. So good luck and everything. I mean, we just saw.
Thank you.
I can't remember exactly where this was, but I remember reading a story last week of a trans Satanist. And then in quotes it says anarchist won the position of sheriff. I think this is somewhere in the Southwest. I'll look it up. Although
it's in New Hampshire. It's in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
I saw that.
Yeah, she won the Republican primary. She's still got to run against the Democratic sheriff, but yeah, she won the Republican primary. I remember reading that story.
Right. Oh, she was in Keene. That's where I went and knocked doors for Bernie. Heavy libertarian vibes. Yeah, and actually, so that's the thing about this story is I think this person is actually kind of an ANCAP, which not really our thing, but
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask, if you are elected and let's say one of the Pence brothers happens to pass away, would you be at all tempted to maybe abuse your authority a little bit and change the name to, I don't know, Elton John McSatan or something like that?
I was going to ask the same thing.
You don't have to answer that. That's probably good of you to, probably a good idea to not.
As your campaign manager, I advise you to decline to answer that question.
See, people ask us sometimes why we don't have more candidates on the show, and it's like there's very few who we would have on that going on the show will not damage their candidacy.
Yeah.
So,
Going on my own show has not damaged my candidate. I don't know if anybody's found it. And so far, there's been no mudslinging about, the horrible shit that I say on our own shows.
I mean, it would be pretty awesome if that ended up becoming an ad on like local television.
Yeah,
that would be great for your show, actually.
I mean, it does seem like that is particularly something that would get under a guy like Mike Pence's skin, given that he is, a man of God and must believe in the afterlife to some extent. So the idea that he's, my body is just being handled by some lunatic. I mean, I don't know. It's good. It's a good troll, I think. Me, I don't care. I don't care what the coroner does to me at all because I'm like I'm a nihilist about all this, about death. But
I would rather not be used for for Nazi purposes if I die. But other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, I do know that there is a funeral director that's local here. He owns a few funeral homes, and he's lost business because he is a gay man, and he's married, and he's like a family guy or whatnot. But there have been people around here in this area, which the county, there's about 20,000 people in
There's 22,000 people as of the 2010 census
in the whole county. And they've just said, no, even though that funeral home, it's a family funeral home, it's been in business for 100 years. They're like, I don't want a gay man touching my body after I'm dead. And so they refuse to, get cremated by him.
Do you want a straight man touching your body after? Like, what do you mean? It's interesting because what they always do this to gay people, where they stigmatize and go, what if they're up to something else? What if this person's a necrophiliac or something? But like, why wouldn't you be asking that about straight people? Anyone that goes into the morgue business is, you might wonder. It's like,
we know a morgue guy, and I would take the gayest of gays over this guy.
Oh my
touching
God.
my. You know what I'm talking about.
I forgot about Ray Kump. Yeah, there's a comedian in fucking New York who you would just see at open mics, and he's just this like ridiculous, slob guy, and he would just be like, "Yeah, long day at the morgue," and then he would go do jokes about his dick or whatever.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
We did have a funeral home here that the guy got fired, obviously, but he got busted because he was robbing the dead. Somebody, when they when they went to the viewing, they noticed that their like familial ring was not on their mother-in-law's hand or whatnot. Turns out that guy had taken the jewelry off the dead, kept it. I don't know what he did with it, and had
Pawned it.
Yeah, and had done it to multiple. So it launched this investigation, and he had done it to multiple people after they died, robbed the dead.
He was just playing World of Warcraft.
Loot.
Yeah.
Nice work if you can get it.
Yeah.
Wow. Though you mentioned stand-up comedians, and one of the things we got a lot of publicity for is
I got my first troll last night. It was nice.
We're actually going to be having a Zoom comedy special, stand-up special that my friend Rivers Langley out in LA organized, and Roy Wood Jr., Gareth Reynolds.
My favorite podcast, no offense.
He got
I love the dog.
He got he was like, Gareth Reynolds knows my name. Rivers Langley's going to host it. Keith Carey's on it.
Ana Valenzuela, Brandy Cozy.
Brandy Cozy, and Jackie Kashane.
Yeah.
And
all friends.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. That was something that when we reached out to, I told Rivers about it just as a hey, this is neat, because I've had him on the show. I was like, yeah, Ian's running for coroner. And Rivers was like, oh my God, do you need help? That's so cool. I'm a true crime buff. And, the trans thing's kind of a cool angle. And then they just kind of put it together, which was really neat.
Yeah, it'll be October 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern. I have the link on my candidacy Facebook page. It's cool. Ian Dent for Randolph County Coroner.
Cool.
So,
well,
right?
we will link everything in the show, which some people listen to our show, but I did see that you got the dollop bump, so that'll probably be the bigger bump, of being honest. Fans of Dave, by the way, he's been on the show.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, we're all one big family. All right. Well, before we move on a little bit, I guess, is there anything else you want to do to promote your race or just your show or anything like that before we get to our next story?
So you can go on Act Blue. That's what anyone running under the Democratic Party banner, that's how we have to fundraise. So it's actblue.com. And then
unless you're Canadian, because I don't think we can.
Yeah, no international donations will be accepted, but
really,
there's a law about that. Yes. In fact, one of the James O'Keefe scams that he tried to do was told some Democratic Party workers back in 2016, he's like, I'm Canadian. Can I buy this shirt and donate? Trying to get somebody to say yes so he could be like, aha, foreign interference. Because it's James O'Keefe, and he's the only person dumber than him is Jacob Wool. But yeah, so Act Blue, you can just search actblue.com for trans coroner or for the Randolph County
Democratic
Party and donate there. and you said I'm sure you'll have the link on there. And then our show, you can just go to violetwanderers.com and all of our stuff is there, or any podcasting platform, Violet Wanderers.
Oh man, can you imagine if instead of Russiagate it was Canadagate? Like
Right.
every day on either Fox or MSNBC, they're talking about Canadian collusion and calling people syrup heads or something.
Yeah.
People would finally know how to pronounce the word Bhutan.
Right. It would go, from Bhutan to Bhutan.
Aha.
Oh, there it is.
Nice.
We see what you did there. Hey,
Yeah.
Folks.
hey, this over here. Oh,
People would be accusing us of being Mounties and shit instead of KGB people or whatever.
I don't know. I always get my man, so.
Well, I guess speaking of the dead, there is no better segue to move into the story of this last week. Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her incredibly, I don't know even what was motivating this guy, incredibly loyal personal trainer. Did you see that video of her funeral? It was an incredible funeral. Trump was just booed the whole time, and then her personal trainer just started doing push-ups on the floor.
yep.
Yeah.
It's a guy who takes his job a little too seriously.
I saw somebody on Twitter say that he was flexing on her because she couldn't do push-ups for shit.
This comedian Ian Abramson said that the video looked like when you're playing a video game and you press the wrong button. Like when you're playing Red Dead and you accidentally punch your horse or something. I don't know. Liberal online people are losing their minds because Ruth Bader Ginsburg finally died after years of kind of Bolsonaroing her way down the stairs to death. You know, she was kind of always dying, and it's 2020, etc. So of course, all the bad things are going to happen. She's dead, and now we have this new situation where, oh my God, can't believe it! Mitch McConnell is not returning the favor that Obama, gave him in the Merrick Garland thing or whatever, and they're going to put in what is this woman's name? I just remember her middle name is Coney. It reminds me of like Coney 2012 or something.
Amy Coney
Barrett.
Yep.
There you go. Amy Coney Barrett. Name that rolls right off the tongue.
Can we just pause for a second with or go back to RGB's trainer for a second?
Please.
He's a trainer in the DC area and has already launched a website called rbgworkout.com.
That's what this was about, right? His whole thing with the viral videos and shit.
Yeah, he's a marketing genius. That's the name of the website, and apparently he's talking about how he's in the special forces and all this stuff, and yet everybody's going to be wanting to train with him now.
Oh my God.
That is also a very 2020 thing.
No, that kind of makes it all make sense because when he started doing those push-ups, I remember watching that and I was like, okay, what is happening here? Like, first, just what's happening, and then I was like, okay, what is the motivation of the guy doing it? And I realized, like, he probably thought this is going to go hella viral on, like, Resistance Lib Twitter as, like, a sign of respect, and what he misgauged was that part, because it just seems like you're just... Yeah, like you're just making fun of her dead body,
It really does.
Like that Mitch Hedberg joke, oh, you shouldn't wave because what if the person doesn't have a hand, It looks like you're going, look what I can do, motherfucker, Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, what is even the Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like, workout, though? Is that you go over to this guy's place and he hands you, like, 1 pound little flimsy weights and he just picks you up and shit?
Yeah, I don't know what he means by that because the workout page. Oh, apparently he has a book too called the RBG Workout, and
that has to have come out from before she died.
Yeah, but so he's been planning this for years now because
he's the one that killed her.
Yeah,
check the coroner death records.
But the tag for the book is, "Are you as strong and energetic as the notorious RBG? You can be. Get the workout plan now."
Jesus fuck.
Waist collar included.
And he's
Yeah.
like, how does she stay so active and energetic? She owes it in part to the twice weekly workout she does with her trainer, Bryant Johnson.
Well, it's actually.
Man, she's called
Oh, go ahead.
him the most important person in her life. So he has been keeping her alive, according to this.
Did he take vacation last week?
I was gonna
What's up
say,
with that?
I don't know.
like, this is actually really bad advertising for his health plan. She's like, literally, the worst thing that could happen is she died. You know?
Yeah, it turns out he was feeding her irradium this whole time. That's where the cancer came from.
Right.
His supplements.
Well, everything is just branded around this, and it has been for over a year now. He has trained with Body Justice. Just everything is like RBG themed. This is his bread and butter, and I think. Well, now I'm kind of starting to empathize with him because his cash cow is gone now. She died, so the only way he can make a living now is by going viral with these push-ups to get more octogenarians who want to be like RBG.
I guess that
I
makes sense.
just know that when I think of just vitality and energy and a personal trainer, I think of the possibly frailest human being that I had ever set eyes on.
Yeah. Also, the other thing about that is that they always compare her to Biggie, who is a huge fat piece of shit, great rapper, but like notoriously unhealthy and dead. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's because their initials sound kind of alike. Is whoever thought of that definitely took a week off, who just discovered that. Nothing else in common, but it's a great little.
You can do that with
fun.
anyone's name. Notorious Anders Lee, huh?
Yeah.
Now there's a
I
little
don't know.
crown on your head.
She did survive Suge Knight though.
No, I think Kamala is.
Yeah, it's because she's skinny.
No,
She just
guys, I
dodged the
think
bullets.
Kamala's trying to warn us. Kamala's trying to warn us. Tupac is alive, and he had the notorious RBG killed. This is what happened.
Right, right.
Yes.
It's all part of the universe that we don't understand. Kamala Harris, by the way, for anyone listening, just said this week that her favorite rapper alive is Tupac, which leads you to go,
made me
is she an
drool.
idiot who is actually lying about being into hip hop, which is kind of what it seems like, or she knows something we don't.
I would respect her so much more if she was just like, I don't listen to rap. I'm sorry. Just because I'm black doesn't mean I have to know anything about hip hop. Like, that would be so much more genuine.
I would
than this
respect
shit.
her more if she said that Jeffrey Epstein was her favorite rapper alive.
I'm sure he tried.
Yeah.
But that interview, I have to get the name of the reporter who was interviewing her, because she had a brilliant save, because her first response was like, Tupac's dead. And then she quickly stopped herself and was like, oh, you mean like he's lives on? And Kamala's like, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. And then she's like, okay, but not Tupac. Other than Tupac, who's your favorite rapper? And she couldn't come up with anything. She was just like, there are people I could name, but
All of them, Katie.
yeah, I want them to stay in their lanes and move on. Next question. And the woman interviewing was just like, I'm this wasn't supposed to be a hard question. But she just totally blew such a layup.
Well, I mean,
Ah.
she could have said Biggie, although because he's the other person who comes to mind when you bring up Tupac. But that would be a ridiculous thing to say. Is like, who's your favorite part of the Civil War? Or the North? No, I guess the South. The other one. I don't know.
I'm just wondering if her favorite rapper is actually Kanye, and she's just too embarrassed to admit it.
That's what I suspected. But I think that's probably because that's the only other rapper she could
Yeah,
think of. And then she's
exactly.
like, oh, wait, probably shouldn't name him. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys know that speaking of the Supreme Court, in Canada, they all dress like Santa Claus?
Yes. They have, if you're like a lawyer or any kind of legal, lawyer or a judge in Canada, or even a legal student, you go like bankrupt paying for the gear that you have to wear in Canadian court.
Oh, they
All
still do
these-
the powdered wigs and shit, right?
Pretty close to it. Yeah, they do these ridiculous ties, like pilgrim ties and the fucking shawls and the robes. It looks ridiculous, and they make you pay for like $500 for this shit.
Yeah, they all look like King DDD from Smash Brothers. With the hammer as a gavel. Oh shit! Actually, I didn't even realize that. Maybe that's what he's modeled after. Who knows?
Yeah.
Some other Supreme Court news this week. Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate who was famously bitten by a bat recently, announced that her pick for Supreme Court, if she was elected president, was Alan Dershowitz. I guess she had a list, but on the list, just fucking Alan Dershowitz.
The Dersh, I mean, it kind of makes sense because his big like cause du jour throughout his career has always been age of consent laws,
right?
Which is a libertarian like standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cringy.
That has always been my my go-to joke when arguing with libertarians on Twitter is just libertarians are Republicans who smoke pot and know way too much about the age of consent laws in every state.
Yeah.
So, like that's just like the hack response that never fails to get them mad.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone knows that one guy when you're in a band and you're on tour and there's a guy who's like really excited to get to like Mississippi or something. You're like, what? Oh, that's why.
It's 13 down there, dude.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I don't know. Do we have anything else on the Supreme Court, Anders? You got anything? Should we move on?
So the nominee, Miss Barrett, is from the same state as our guests, and as I understand it, you've had some run-ins with her and Pence's brother, right?
No, that was me being dumb. No, she's also part of the People of Praise, Catholic spinoff that famously inspired Margaret Atwood to write The Handmaid's Tale, because they call the women in the movement handmaidens, and it is all like
Creepy.
basically it is that creepy bullshit. That's exactly what it is.
They all answered like one man.
So yeah, no,
wow.
I don't, until she got nominated, like South Bend is way the hell up north.
That's ironically, that's Pete Buttigieg's.
And say paradoxically, it's like up closer to Chicago. So it's
his Rust Belt, small Midwestern, devastated town. That's definitely not centered around a like massive international university that employs like 60% of the town or something.
Yeah, we can't stop here. It's rat country.
But yeah, so I didn't really know a whole lot about her prior to her being nominated. Like she might have been from this state, but like, yeah, nothing had ever really crossed our path down here. So
okay, well, but it's interesting about this sect that she's in. As you mentioned, they're Catholic, but I think like the big split with People of Praise and like broader Catholicism is they're like extra patriarchal. Like the Catholic Church generally doesn't teach or no longer teaches, I'm not sure which it is, male headship, which is more of an evangelical thing. But the People of Praise are like, no, we're still Catholics. We do the fucking weird cult, stuff with leaves and blood and yada, yada. We want to keep that. And the man has to be in charge of everything, which is kind of a strange position for a female Supreme Court justice to take. Like, is her husband gonna decide how she votes on issues? Like, how's that gonna work?
She'll just listen to all the other men.
I might be talking out of my ass here, but if I'm remembering correctly, the person who's like the head of the People of Praise, like their mini pope or whatever, would probably be able to, just call her up and be like, no, vote this way. Like if she's following the rules of her own sect.
She's
right.
She's like basically in the NXIVM cult, and that every time she votes on something, she has to text the guy who looks like young Mark Maron or whatever from the HBO show.
I mean, it really is sort of a genius nomination because especially going into the election, because the Democrats, I think, rightly to their credit, are going to point out this is a conflict of interest. The judiciary should be independent from a church, that's in the Constitution. And then that fact is going to inflame the Republican base, especially evangelicals, who are going to be like, this is religious discrimination. Like she can't, the idea that she can't serve on the court because she's a person of faith, that's ridiculous. So it's going to become this referendum on that and, move away from the actual impact and power of the Supreme Court. Any unprecedented move of, going back on your stated belief 4 years ago that we should wait till after the election to nominate someone, and just the utter hypocrisy that these Republicans have.
Well, and I mean, nobody who's paid attention to the Republican Party is surprised by that. I always tell the resistance Twitter types and stuff because they'll sit there and go, "Oh, well, I pointed out your hypocrisy, slam dunk." And it's like, no, you haven't. The Republicans believe in two things: one, the acquisition of power, and two, using that power to hurt the people they have deemed their enemies. And if they tell you that they believe something else, they are lying in service of one. And then once you realize that, you realize they're entirely ideologically consistent, because their entire ideology is gain power, use that power to hurt the other. So sure, they're going to say that 4 years ago when Obama was in charge, because that's a way for them to exercise power. And sure, they're going to go back on their word now, because that's, once again, it's another way for them to gain power. Right. As soon as you figure that part out, it's real simple. It's like, lib Twitter, listen to me. You cannot call Republicans out on hypocrisy because you're taking what they say at face value. Stop it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting.
I was raised conservative evangelical. I know about this shit.
Right. You know the playbook. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about that the other day, because Mitch McConnell and the Republican senators, basically their excuse is like, okay, we did say that 4 years ago, but if the Democrats were in our position, they'd do the same thing, which is not true, but it should be. You know what I mean? The Democrats aren't brave enough to actually be as dedicated as the Republicans are to getting their priorities passed. They should do the same thing. They should do whatever they can to usurp the Supreme Court, because it's an undemocratic institution, but they're not going to. If Joe Biden gets elected, they're not going to. Maybe they'll be pressured to add once. No, I don't think he's going to pack the court. I don't think he's going to do anything. They're just going to use it. It's going to be a perfect foil. They're going to say, look, we would love to pass all this progressive legislation, but we have the Supreme Court that's just going to block it. What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, they keep as a tool, they use their inability to do anything, and violating that in any way would destroy their entire machine, because then you would go, well, why don't you do what you did last time? Right. So, that clearly is by design, and at some level it's happening in smoky back rooms or whatever, where they figure out, all right, how are we going to lie to our own base today, but further down the tree of power or whatever, you've got people that just kind of vaguely work on these campaigns and stuff, and then you've got the actual gullible kind of brainwashed resistance lib Twitter people that are that worked on the primary campaigns and stuff like that. I'm trying to transition into something that happened to me this week, which is that I got into a fight with Liz Smith, the woman who worked on the Buttigieg campaign. Speaking of him, and what happened?
Mayor Pete.
Yep. What happened essentially was, because Biden has taken a certain tack in trying to win over middle of the road conservative voters and stuff like that, and trying to carve out certain coalitions and constituencies and stuff. He, I think, has realized he's not going to win over Latinos in the way that Bernie Sanders did, which is to win over younger Latinos and poorer Latinos. And he's not going to have the showing that Bernie had in Nevada, right? So what he's doing a lot with his campaign, and I've talked about this a lot on the show, but like Hispanic, Latino, these are very vague, amorphous concepts that also involve a lot of self-identification. So statistically, they mean a million different things, and this is, I think, why politicians are so bad at targeting these communities and stuff like that. But Biden has been going after the conservative Cuban vote in Florida because he thinks he's going to win Florida as the swing state, right? Which is stupid, in my opinion, because those people, a lot of people don't understand this, because you think Latino, person of color, right? They must be Democrats. They're MAGA people. They're going to vote for Trump because they are white Cubans whose families fled Castro, when Castro beat Batista and essentially, these people owned plantations and Castro took their slaves away and stuff like that, right? So
Yep.
that's where you get this history of conservative Cubans who, quote unquote, fled to Cuba and are very anti-communist, right? So the Biden campaign rolled out this T-shirt for their, their fucking whatever the fuck they're doing in Florida, their little campaign down there.
It was the campaign? It wasn't just this girl?
I think it was the campaign.
Wow.
I'm blocked up by all of them on Twitter now, so I'll have to look into it. But the T-shirt is, Biden is my fucking TO or some shit, and then on the back of it, it says 100% fascist, 100% anti-comunista. It's all in Spanish, and then pro-democracy or something like that. But I was making fun of her because anti-communist, especially in Spanish like that, it just sounds an awful lot like a free helicopter ride. Like a T-shirt like you would see them like the Nazis wear. I mean, they literally, they refer to Pinochet a lot in the exact same way, and none of these fucking people understood that. And then I just got into this huge fucking thing with them, and I don't know. I wanted to talk about it a little bit because it is funny. I think that they don't understand that they are actually kind of talking like Nazis in an effort to win like a democratic race. But here's what I got in trouble for, by the way, is this person who worked for the Buttigieg campaign was, lauding the shirt and saying anti-comunista. I love that, right? So I said, hey, it's a worm working for a rat. Ha ha ha, worm referring to the term gusano, which is what Castro called the white Cuban plantation owners and stuff like that. And so they then Googled it and looked it up and looked up some fucking thing that says, technically this is a slur. And it's kind of yes, kind of no. Mostly no. Calling someone gusano is essentially calling them, like the person who's in a position of power in this situation.
Right. It's like calling me a honky.
Right. yeah, it's like technically a slur, but not really. It's like calling a cop a pig.
Or possibly a ginger.
yeah. But
and now Andrews hates me.
There's
well done.
There's a second wave of this word kind of existing. It is possible to actually have someone interpret the term gusano if they're like a non-English speaking person in Florida who isn't actually, a rich Cuban. It's been thrown around in malicious ways. I'd say about 90% of this though is what we're describing, calling somebody a honky or whatever. But I didn't bring this up when I was talking to Liz Smith because she don't fucking understand that, and she's not these people. She's not, a random like Puerto Rican or something who, who would be, caught in the crossfire or something like this. I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting, and so it caused them to, I think, remove the post, and I'm really interested to see where this goes because I'm wondering if this sort of backlash from people online on Twitter, which is a little bit more democratic of a space, just in terms of you've got all these leftists and shit who can tweet at people like this. I wonder if they're going to take the input and realize that it might be a bad idea for the Democratic Party to start basically saying the quiet part loud and saying we are literally anti-communists, Because that's been the thing that they've sort of had to imply to win over votes from people like Cubans before. But, if you say it out loud, everybody else is going to... You're trying to form a coalition with people that, in theory, kind of are communist sympathetic,
Right. And it's... Yeah, my thing with that has always been, if you're a liberal, fine. If you're a social democrat, okay, maybe we disagree on some stuff, we agree on some stuff. But... don't be an anti-communist. You don't have to be a communist to not be an anti-communist. That term, that label has always involved far-right elements. It's always been a cloak for fascism or, at best, McCarthyism, right? It doesn't take a socialist to understand that what Joseph McCarthy did was fucked up and that this is easily abused. People easily lose their rights and are persecuted in the name of anti-communism. And especially if you're a liberal and you believe in this sort of human rights, like civil liberties bullshit, you should not engage in anti-communism. You shouldn't, dignify it as a movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that what you asked if they would take the input. I don't think they will. I think they would be well served to have somebody on their staff that, I hate to say it, but that was able to sort of research stuff on like Know Your Meme and 4chan and shit like that, to where they at least knew where some of this shit was coming from, because the Clinton campaign in 2016 was just completely overwhelmed and unprepared for the, great meme war, as it were. And that sort of shit like just plays right into it. And it's all loaded language. And like Anders said, it's very, very easy for that to slide down. And then, like you said, the friggin' free helicopter ride bullshit. Like, if I see a shirt that says anti-communist, I'm immediately like, what, are you a member of the Proud Boys? What the fuck?
Yeah.
So, it's just, it's such a bad look. Like, I don't know. It's kind of right up there with the "you ain't black" comment to me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Remember that chestnut from what, a month ago?
Right. Yeah.
Who knows? 5 months ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah. Who the fuck knows? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting because, a lot of these like low level staffers and stuff like that are not the people that are deliberately saying this sort of stuff. It's like I had people reach out to me and say, hey, I know that person in real life. That's an idiot. Like, it's incredible. They don't even know why this is such a bad thing to say. All they know is that on the face, level or whatever, they want the blue guy to win, and they believe all these Latin people in Cuba who say that Castro was like a dictator and all this stuff, and done no research as to why people in Cuba would say that. And then there's just this distortion with Cuban like exiles and stuff, where everybody who works in America and who works around these people, especially the ones that get into politics, has the experience of like, well, 100% of the Cuban people I know hate Castro. And you go, well, yeah, that's because the other ones are still in Cuba. Like, what do you mean? Because you're in Florida. There's this like an interesting distortion of information there.
Right. And it's also, the Ana Navarros of the world are sort of coming into the Democratic fold. They're with, a lot of them are with the Never Trump crowd, and they're much more influential than communists in terms of the Democratic Party. So that's seeping into the rhetoric. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they've said as much as they're going to try to run Biden for this reason as a caudillo, which is like a fucking Latin American strongman. So they're essentially going to try to run him as like a Pinochet or like, I don't know, some kind of weird like Carlos Slim
Bolsonaro
character. Well, probably because, I mean, that is the reason that a lot of those people like Trump, is because he's kind of a strongman or whatever. Yeah. So he's basically trying to portray himself as like, I mean, basically like somebody the fucking CIA would install, and he's openly, talking about Juan Guaido and fucking shit that they're going to do in Honduras if they win and stuff like that. And what's the other one? There's like a third. I guess it's escaping me right now. But right, and also like, I mean, he's not trying to speak Spanish, but he did do that Despacito shit, which was pretty funny, where he just played like the.
He just played it with his phone.
Yeah.
He had no idea what it was, what was happening. It's a miracle he even managed to get it to play. Like, they definitely had a staffer load it for him and say, like, okay, don't touch anything until it's time, and test this, press this button exactly, and do nothing else.
Yeah, and he like fucked it up, and it took a minute to start and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am excited to, like, if they're going to take this strategy, to see him eventually try to do whatever the fuck he's going to do in portraying himself as sympathetic to Latin Americans on some level, because it's going to involve him wearing a hat or something, or like growing a mustache. Something that isn't speaking Spanish, because I don't think he's going to fucking attempt it. Man, can't even like really speak English.
Uh-huh.
Oh God, if he shows up to an event in a sombrero, just shoot now.
Yeah,
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the meteor.
Yeah. Well,
I hate to sound like a doomer, but dear Lord.
No, yeah, I definitely just want the last thing I see to be him just like God, I don't even fucking know. You know, he's him just trying to redo that viral video, the Cholo guy singing Fleetwood Mac songs or something. Like, you guys like this?
Jesus
He
Christ.
tries to do that, and he ends up imitating Ron Paul.
Oh yeah. Speaking of,
Also, for your listeners, my husband didn't just fall mute. Our daughter came home. Her grandma dropped her off, so he's just downstairs. He'll be back up in a minute, I'm sure.
Being a dad.
all good.
Dad
You know,
stuff.
coroner duty calls. Who knows? You could have to be summoned by the coroner light to go out and look at a dead person.
Yeah, it could be a car crash on I-69 5 minutes, 5 minutes from now, and then it's gotta go. Like, once he gets the job, obviously. But
Yeah. Well, we should probably round out. I wanted to finish the story, or this week's episode, with a story about the police, since that's obviously still a thing. It's going on in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing of great.
We still
debate.
have police, unfortunately.
So yeah, the cops are out of fucking control. They're like biking over people's heads. They're shooting themselves and then blaming it on protesters. I don't know if you saw that. After the Breonna Taylor news came out, there was news that 2 cops had been shot by a protester, and then it turned out afterwards one of the cops was self-inflicted bullet wound. He just blamed on some black guy.
Ouch.
awesome.
Yeah.
I did not see that was the update. I have seen like all of the police brutality videos because a friend of my show, past guest on my show, Greg Doucette on Twitter, has been collecting all of them. I think he's in the high 900s now for just the number of incidents. And then he's got multiple videos of each incident. And it's just as all the freaking police brutality videos, he's just got like a mega thread of them.
I mean, this is an important reason why people should run for and become coroners, is because I don't know the ins and outs of it, but a lot of times something that's clearly a murder by a police officer ends up as an accident or inflicted for some other reason, or, they actually had diabetes and that made the bullet kill them harder, something like that.
And
so if we had,
that is one of the, sorry.
I was just going to, if we had better coroners, and that would hopefully not be an issue.
One of the things that Ian is running for, and like, I wish he was able to come back up right now and do it, but I'm his campaign manager. I can do it. Married and campaign manager. What who'd have thought it? But yeah, one of the things is if our county has been really low on COVID numbers, like really, really low, like suspiciously low. Like maybe 5% of every other county around us low as far as per capita. Like, we have a small population, but I'm saying like, yeah. And between that and then, like you said, suspicious deaths, any sort of death in police custody, like that takes a coroner to sign off and say, well, yeah, actually he did have a gun in the back of the police car. And even though his hands were cuffed behind him, he did manage to shoot himself in the forehead.
Yeah.
Like that
he
sort
shot
of stuff
it with his mouth. He tried to shoot the cop, and then the bullet bounced back and did a magic bullet thing in the head. Yeah.
That is the sort of stuff that a coroner can properly prevent. And I think, because we had a lot of people ask us, well, why is coroner even an elected position? And I think one of the reasons that it should be elected, honestly, if it's going to be a position rather than appointed, is if it was appointed, then it's like, oh, well, the police chief says, okay, well, you're the coroner now, or the mayor says you're the coroner now. And then something suspicious comes up and they go, well, if you don't, you're appointed, you're not elected. So if you don't do this the way we say you should, we'll just fire you and find someone who will. Whereas if you're an elected coroner, like, you don't have that pressure on you. You just have to answer to the voters, as opposed to answering to either the mayor, the chief of police, or I guess really the coroner is mostly with the sheriff's office. But it does in small towns like ours, it will wind up, he's not part of the sheriff's department or the police department, but he's going to have to interact with them when there's dead bodies involved. But yeah, one of the main things was anytime we have these suspicious deaths, be it from like I said, the COVID thing, or be it from a police shooting or a domestic violence with a pillar of the community that, is supposed to get hushed up, anything like that, he has the ability and the opportunity to go, no, this is fishy, and we're doing an autopsy. I'm ordering an autopsy, as opposed to, oh yeah, no, sure, I'll write down whatever you want. Yep. Sure
Right.
thing. Sure thing there, boss.
Yeah. Also, if this is all something that interests you and you're listening, or you think you might be able to get somebody else's campaign off the ground, look into the local rules for how to run for sheriff, because it's like these things are different from county to county, to state or whatever, apparently. But a friend of ours, Josh Androsky, ran for sheriff of the LAPD once. It was very funny, and he, I don't know how well he would have done or whatever, but turned out that you had to actually serve as a police officer for some amount of time. But I don't know if that's the rule across the board. I don't know. Look it up. But yeah, I mean, you could run for sheriff, and then these things are obviously related to each other, and you could be able to regulate maybe from the inside. I don't fucking know. Why not? This goddamn ANCAP did it.
Right. Or park board, or state or state auditor, or there's all kinds of like local offices that could
commissioner,
be filled by.
city commissioner, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the fucking pigs. I did a little research this week and found something, right? So we've got this like looming tech apocalypse, sort of goes hand in hand with capitalism, these robot dogs that we've been watching on the Boston whatever fucking robot school website have been finally seen in the wild. Something that Brett O'Shea from Rev Left Radio pointed out today could be a beautiful thing if they were used to serve us instead. These fucking Black Mirror guard dogs will likely be our security guards, our whip hand, They have cameras on them. And we're also seeing something extremely dystopian in the gear that the police are being armed with. We talk a lot about how, like, the police shit comes from just imperialism. It just comes from fucking stuff we do overseas, But there's another weird, like, I don't even know what I would call this. Another avenue that they've been acquiring scary video game gear from. And it's just these like private security companies. Like I used to talk on the show a lot about the one out in Denver, Front Range Patrol. Well, I looked into something this week because a tweet went viral exposing basically like shock shields, taser shields that the police were armed with in Memphis. And
Jesus.
Essentially it's a little buckler, a little circular shield that you can see through it, has electrical capabilities. And I looked into the story because I was curious whether we're just going to start seeing these in the streets or whatever. And the Memphis Police Department swears up and down that, they only brought them out for a moment and they realized that it's bad optics. And so they went ahead and took them, back inside. And they only did them because protesters had gone inside of a courthouse or something. And, they needed to protect whatever, right? That fine or whatever. That's sort of a scary visage of things to come. But I went ahead and looked up where they got the shields from, though. And it turns out it's a company called Compliant Technologies. These shields are $900 a piece, by the way, if you're interested in purchasing one for, personal use. And complianttechnologies.net. I'll link this in the show description or whatever. It fucking rules because they have these shields for sale, sure, but the shields are like the 9th item on the list. The main thing that they've been pushing, which they clearly is their prize product, or maybe they just made too many of them or something, is something called the GLOVE with periods, like it's an acronym, Generated Low Output Voltage Emitter, which is a glove that shocks people like fucking force lightning from Star Wars. The website reads, ideal for law enforcement, corrections, security agencies, non-threatening and de-escalating, humane, low current output, at the user's disposal through the force continuum, not easily taken away, affordable with no additional operating costs, right? So they sell these gloves that have like a taser inside of them, and there's like video of them on the website. I'll sort of incorporate some of it into the podcast, but there's all these videos of them using these weapons that they make like on each other in an instructional fashion on top of like a big blue gym mat or something. And what's interesting is, I mean, first of all, they come in all different like colors and variations. There's a fingerless chalk glove you can buy if you are of the Legion of Skanks persuasion or something.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
it sounds like a friggin' Inspector Gadget villain factory or something.
I was thinking like this is literally what superheroes are, like this is like in comic books, it's oftentimes someone without superpowers just has access to this type of technology. So there are probably like vigilante cranks out there who are going to buy this shit.
Absolutely Batman shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of this stuff is like literally just like the exact same product has, been seen in like Spider-Man or Batman or something like that. Let me find the products page here. So the gloves are pretty cool. I mean, honestly, I think you can just buy these. I do kind of want to get a pair of shock gloves, not for police purposes, just for I want to be able to shock people with my hands. That does sound pretty fun. There's another product below the shock gloves called an E-band restrictor, which is essentially like a shock dog collar type thing with a remote control, but you just put it on someone's arm or leg and then lock it onto them. And you can watch a video of two cops doing it to each other to demonstrate, how to fucking apprehend someone or whatever. There's another one that's called an E-vest, which is literally an entire Kevlar vest that they just took the Kevlar out of and put shock panels into, so you can just shock someone's entire torso.
You just gonna bear hug them and turn it on? What?
No, I think this is after you detain them. You put the vest on them.
Oh,
and then you just fucking can shock this person. You've got handcuffed or whatever. Then the shields. And the shields, by the way, I'll read you some of the description here. Compliant technology shields protect users during rioting, civil disturbances, and other operations based upon agency needed. Our shields come in a variety of shapes, sizes, and capabilities. These capabilities range from conducted electrical weapon, high-frequency distracting sound, to disorienting pulsating light. They scream, they light up, and they shock people.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, these features can be used separately or in unison depending on the shield model. The tools are designed to give users flexibility and humane tactical advantage over large crowds and individuals. Then, listed after that, is just an item with no real description, simply referred to as the claw.
The claw. There it is.
Yeah.
There's the Inspector Gadget villainy.
It's the claw is, if you look at it, you can eventually sort of see a further description and like a demonstration video. The claw is a scary black spiked version of one of those long arm grabber things that the bodega guy uses to get stuff off the top shelf, or like the little grabber thing you would get with a dinosaur head on it from like Six Flags when you were a kid. But it's huge, and so they say that they use them for prison riots to just like from like, a fucking balcony, just like reach down and grab someone. There's also an E-baton, which is basically a shot, like a police baton with a shock capability, which is, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, literally the Turk Reno. This is what he uses to fight you. The anime guy.
Yes.
And then finally, there's something called glove sticks, GLOVE with all the periods, sticks, which looks like a pair of nunchucks. And I'm confused on what it is. It says eliminates odors, inhibits bacteria growth for 10 years, starts noticing a difference in 24 hours, neutralizes smell, absorbs moisture. I think that you're supposed to put these inside of the gloves or something, but it also looks like nunchucks. I can't really tell. It's like a companion product.
Friggin' nerds.
Yeah. And that's basically all they sell as products. They sort of list a number of other companies that they work with that's pretty disturbing on the bottom of their page. Most of them are surveillance companies or like fucking self-defense kung fu companies. One of them is called Best Defense Concepts. Subtitle, Train Smart, Fight Dirty. So they just teach you how to punch people in the balls and stuff. Pretty weird. But more importantly, the reason I wanted to talk about this, other than it's fucking weird and funny is that what they've used to sort of sell all of these electric weapons is essentially this language you see over and over again on the website, which is that it's extremely non-lethal and you'll barely feel it. It's humane, and let me see if I can find the description for the glove. It's available through the use of the force continuum, like an invisible partner, enhances the user's ability when operating within the continuum while utilizing their agency's already established tactic techniques and procedures, whether on their own or they're in mass, yada, yada, yada. You'll see, I don't know, sift through the website, you'll see this thing they keep vamping on, which is that this isn't very strong electrically, right? It's only, in fact, 100 to 250 volts, which, and if you're an electrician and you know anything about this, feel free to, email the show or whatever and correct me on this.
I do a lot of maintenance and stuff. I know enough if you really want a quick explainer.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong about this, because I did a little research on what seemed like to be some deceptive language, and I read about how they advertise the voltage capabilities of like tasers and stuff like that and stun guns when they sell them for self-defense. And essentially what it seems to me is that Compliant Technology is selling these like crazy anime, RoboCop weapons, and they're shouting very loudly like it's only 120 volts. It's not very many volts, right? But the actual thing that determines how painful an electrical charge is going to be is not the volts. It's the like charge continuum or something, which is measured in micro. It's the
amperage. It's the amperage.
Right.
So yeah. Volts are the amount of water, and amperage is the speed at which it's running.
Right.
Well, Felix, not right now. No. So, like, if you have 10,000 volts, that's a very wide river, but if it's at a way low amperage, it's moving very slowly through you. It's not going to hurt much. And you can have 100 volts and a really high amperage. You've got like a pressure sprayer. Is the easiest way to kind of describe it.
Right. Okay, so volts times amperage, basically, the pressure coming out of the amount of electricity coming at a certain rate via pressure. If I'm to understand what I was reading earlier, that then gives you the thing that you can measure, which will be the amount of, electricity that's entered the body, which creates a certain amount of pain, right? And so if you look up stun guns and tasers and stuff like that, when you're trying to order one on fucking Amazon for whatever reason, you'll see that the output of like this one I've got pulled up in front of me is 1.25 microlombs, which they say over 1 microlomb is enough to sort of render unbearable pain, right? Well, let me pull up the fucking stun gun here, the baton, the Reno Spider-Man villain cattle prod thing. So the microlombs that are actually coming out of the e-baton, for example, 84 to 105 coulombs.
Jeez.
Yeah, so this is, you shock a cow with this. This is not the same as a stun gun. Yeah, I don't know. Deceptive, scary. Don't believe them when they tell you it doesn't shock you that much. I guess is what I'm getting at. Anyway, yeah. Keep an eye out there, Antifa super soldiers. If you start to notice the second level electricity cop coming at you, maybe let's look into like rubber suits or something that we can use.
Yeah.
Or
can we order these? Can we just fill a U-Haul filled with these fucking suits and gear and shit?
That's actually a good point, because they're non-lethal, so I guess we could just use them in self-defense.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get some shock hands. I think they look kind of cool.
Be careful with them with all that, like you said, that microlombs. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there's a number of foam insulation things you could do with shields to prevent a lot of that shock stuff. Electricity is not my specialty, but it is something that I've had to deal with before because I work in manufacturing. So, but Yeah, absolutely. Everybody dress up like the Michelin Man, and we should be golden.
Yeah, and I haven't figured out yet quite how to combat the claw, but as soon as I figure it out, I'll go ahead and put it on the podcast. Maybe some sort of gigantic bodega cat that we bring with us into battle. Just knocks the protesters away like it's a roll of toilet paper the guy's trying to grab. I don't know. All right. Well, I think we should probably get out of here. Once again, let's see. Plugs, anyone, before we go?
At Anders Lee here on Twitter. And this is an electoral. We talked to a candidate on today's episode, and I'm sort of wary of plugging volunteering for candidates because my track record so far has not been great. But that's just going to be the case on the left.
Kiss of death.
Yeah, I don't know if I should or not, but this is going to be the time that it works is with these two great candidates who I've may or may not have been putting in a little time for. Paula Jean Swearingen, who is the nominee, Democratic nominee in West Virginia. Even if she doesn't win, it'll still be a pretty big deal because she's running as a pretty far left candidate for West Virginia, Medicare for All, Green New Deal, Black Lives Matter. So phone bank for her. Also, Ed Lazaire in D.C., where I'm at, is running for at-large city council. Please vote for him if you're a D.C. resident. Everybody gets 2 votes on at-large council member. And we need help phone banking for him. So he would be somebody who would be able to actually finesse the budget. He knows the budget like the back of his butt, and would be able to defund the police with enough support. And this would give DSA in DC, I think, the highest percentage of DSA members in a legislative body in the country, because we also have Janice Lewis George coming in. So those are 2 good candidates. Ed Lazaire, Paula Jean Swearingen. Check them out, and please help if you can.
Cool. I'll put it in the show notes. Once more, I guess, where can everyone donate to the campaign for Coroner?
Oh, okay. So you can go on Act Blue and go to the Randolph County Democratic Party page, or I think it's secure.actblue.com/trans coroner is his specific one, or you can just search for trans coroner. It'll take you to Ian's page, which once again, I'm sorry that he got pulled downstairs and is having to handle the kids' stuff. Oh, no, here comes back just in time to say bye.
Sorry, I thought it was my mother, dropping our daughter off, but it was actually a friend who's...
Oh, so you weren't being a good dad after all. You've abandoned us to just go talk to somebody else.
Yeah, she was taking pictures of spiders and praying mantises on her property and stuff, so I was giving her the tour.
Cool.
But you can follow our show at Violet Wanderers on Twitter. Find us online, violetwanderers.com. And Ian, you can find his candidacy on Facebook, just Ian Dent for Randolph County Coroner. And he doesn't really do Twitter, though. So
no, I don't. I'm bad at it.
So, but yeah, that's our pluggables, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, I don't blame you for not using Twitter. It's not good. All right. Well, our show. Hey, if you're a fan of our show, why don't you give us a review on iTunes? It'll help the show out. And if you like to listen to more of our show and give us money, you can give us $5 on Patreon for bonus episodes. And we have merch for sale.
Oh, yeah. We got to get... Our latest one is with Mike Davis, who can teach you a fuck of a lot about, botany and how that relates to socialism. It's awesome.
Incredible.
I'd be interested in that one. I love botany. I love botany.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. Stay safe out there. Look out for electricity. It could be coming from anywhere.
It's finished. It's zapped.
Finished.
We have to get rid of that. That's a burden. We can barely work this. We can't buy it.
Is Dr. Paul?